Still to come, we look at preparations taking place in Paraguay as the country gets ready to host the Copa America. And from Sicily, Eric Cantona hopes to lead France to success in the newly formed European Pro Beach Tournament.
Lloyd's TSB has come together. How can we help you live your life?
What can we do to make it happen? To make it happen. What can we do to make it right? To make it right. What can we do to make you feel good? To make you feel good. How can we help you live your life? How can we help you live your life?
We're here to help make things happen for you. Lloyd's TSB. Your life, your bank.
What can we do to make you feel good? How can we help you live your life?
So you're still out there buying records?
Yep, I still buy 100 quid's worth a week.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. If you ask me what I would play now to look at modern, late 90s, I'd pull out, I'd pull out a Prodigy album.
Take on it with them is that they're a band that have managed to fuse together an incredible pop sensibility, but they're also keeping very strongly in a credible field, like they're still the darlings of the enemy.
Yeah.
It's just, it's weird. Where I've been looking back at the records that you've produced, like records like with Roadblock, records like Mandy Smith, I Just Can't Wait, which was adopted by the acid house crowd,
yeah.
and then all of a sudden you'll go off and just make these huge selling records, and it's like, well, sod the credibility.
I've never ever, I've never done things for credibility. I just cashed the checks and they were enormous.
I just want to tie in one more contemporary band.
Yeah, when I heard the first Oasis record, I really, really liked it because it was one of those things where I think I saw the credibility thing that I know was important to the melody maker and the NME, but at the end of the day, wonderful songs.
It blew it away.
And I'd gone that nobody wants pop songs anymore. I sort of I was always thinking, well, will I ever bother to make another record? Because I don't make drum and bass records. I remember hearing Wonderwall and thinking, wow, what a crafted song this is. And when you go to a football match and all the terrorists start singing Oasis songs, you go, that proves it for me.
Okay, Pete, thanks very much
Pleasure.
for your hospitality.
Pleasure.
Enjoyed that.
Backbeat, the word is on the street that the fire in your heart is out. I'm sure you've heard it all before, but you never really had it out. I don't believe that anybody feels the way I do about you now. And all the roads we have to walk are winding, and all the lights that lead us there are blinding. There are many things that I would like to say to you, but I don't know how.
hungry for success with a bad case of the munchies, Rock and Roll Tales is up next.
Really, because the thing when you're speeding is you can drink ever such a lot more.
Followed by Solar Amma and Glamour Kid, Janet Jackson, Nas and more. All that's fat and funky in flavour. Play it loud. Music sounds better on 4.
Hello, I'm Graham Norton.
And I'm Lisa Tarbuck.
Join us on Music of the Millennium as we travel across the country.
Looking for the musical heart of Britain's best songwriters, the Gibb Brothers.
Hi. Marty Bello, best male vocalist of the Millennium.
That's Music of the Millennium.
11:10 Saturday, Channel 4.
Every year, NatWest Insurance helps to protect nearly 2 million people so they can sleep more easily.
For a faultless smooth drive, the new Mondeo Z-Tech.
Your cheating heart will make you feel.
Thanks.
You'll cry and cry and try to sleep.
No, I couldn't. He's my best mate.
Australians wouldn't give a Castlemaine for anything else.
I don't think you can ever put in what is a rock and roll.
Yeah.
It's all different for everybody.
I think,
It's all,
yeah,
do you know what I mean?
definitely. People probably surmise that it's partying all the time, but
It's
obviously
like-
you can't party
Yeah,
24/7.
totally. It's like me, Top of the Pops. The first time I used to die wanting to go to Top of the Pops again, dancing there, saying I'd love to go to Top of the Pops. The first time I went to Top of the Pops, I was there for 8 hours sitting there, watching it over and over again, and watching the rehearsal, watching it all like that. I was so disappointed.
Nothing's ever how you
same as a
expect it
video.
to be.
It's like hours and hours. You'll think it's all glamorous and everything, but it's not.
It's loads of sitting around.
Yeah, so there's, you know, it's not all about that great rock and roll lifestyle.
No, it's not all about parties
But
and
the
sex,
benefits
drugs,
is, you know,
rock and roll, is it?
No, but you know, the benefits of it, I suppose, is, you know, going to gigs,
Yeah.
you know, meeting people,
Meeting
and
interesting people.
and the job that we do, we really enjoy it and being involved in it, I suppose,
Exactly.
and going to see bands, that sort of thing.
Hanging out.
If there was kind of one simple answer to drug addiction or alcoholism, and then people would be able to avoid it. I mean, I think really the root of all this, you know, rock and roll, being famous, is this kind of need to be loved.
Poor old unloved pop stars. Sheds full of cash, bags full of hash, and more time on their hands than they know what to do with. In tonight's cautionary set of tales, we follow them down the road of excess to the palace of whiz.
Drugs, yeah, tons of drugs. Mainly cocaine.
I think trying to be your image all the time is what kills you. I think that's what killed Jim Morrison. I think that's what killed a lot of the guys that died. I think they were just trying to be that character, in the intensity of that character at every given moment. In order to do that, you'd have to take a handful of pills to maintain that.
One of the reasons I've always believed that people get into drugs and alcohol on the road is they go on stage for an hour and it's wonderfully exhilarating. They've got 23 hours of boredom with nothing to do.
Wow. Here I am, 5-star hotel. Give me half an ounce of cocaine. You know, leads to making sure that every single vein in my body is screwed up.
I had a bad heroin addiction. Luckily for me, the heroin addiction was never anything to do with needles. But that is one thing that I do regret from my past, is the fact that I took heroin and it was purely by mistake. I thought I was taking a line of cocaine and it was a line of heroin.
It was all alcohol. And I didn't have the metabolism that, was able to take it. So it got the better of me.
I started to do the speed because it was, well, you kind of, why not? And so it did make for a speedy rehearsal, as it were. But all it meant was that you had all this time on your hands and you had to do it all again.
How do you go to bed after playing to 12,000 people who have just adored you? You know, what do? You have a double scotch and then you put your head on a pillow and go to sleep. Of course you don't.
Every night was a party. If you didn't go on stage drunk, there's something wrong. You know, so everybody would have their quota.
About a fifth of vodka a day and a half ounce of cocaine and pills to boot. I think I just wanted to take myself away, you know.
We'd listen to the mix and we'd go, yeah, let's just take some more to listen to the mix. And we were going, everything just sounded fantastic, didn't it?
Until you woke up the next day.
Until we woke up the next day, yeah.
There's an awful lot of drugs going on, although I didn't ever do that because it wasn't my scene. I was already quite nauseating enough without adding chemical input.
Kingy might have got to the moon without monging it, but everybody else was on a different planet, especially in the permanently sozzled sphere of heavy metal.
Ozzy Osbourne was probably the worst, I would have said, or the best, whatever way you want to put it. I mean, I remember a typical day was we met in the pub at 12, 3 hours in the pub, a couple of lines of speed to wake us up, a couple of bottles of wine to fuel the interview through the afternoon until the pubs opened again.
The sacred powders or the sacred syringe or whatever. There was nothing else we wanted to do other than play rock music, you know, I mean, like, and get out of it.
That's what rock and roll bands are supposed to do, aren't they? They're not supposed to be bloody political and environmentalist, you know. Jesus Christ, only everybody else doing that.
Lemmy is an incredible character because, I mean, he seems to exist entirely on sulphate and vodka. In fact, the rumour is around the business that if Lemmy were to stop taking sulphate, he'd die because his body'd become dependent on it.
Rock and roll's supposed to take you away from the shit job you're in for an hour and a half, make you feel 100 foot tall, you know.
When I met Lemmy, he was boozing, speeding and staying up for 3 or 4 days at a time. You know, his philosophy in life was, do you realise you spend a third of your life in bed? Which is a pretty good argument for staying awake. If you think about it, you get an extra third of your life.
I asked Ozzy once about taking acid, and I said, how many times do you take it, Ozzy? He said, about 900 tabs. I said, well, what made you stop? He said, well, ended up talking to a horse in a field for 4 hours, and the horse started speaking back, and that was it. He couldn't handle it anymore.
I don't know, the excesses of being emotive are obviously lots of drinking and lots of speeding, because the thing when you're speeding is you can drink ever such a lot more.
Really, the love of music is really what it's all about. The love of drugs and the love of alcohol comes along with it because you get such a high.
Well, I was very famous for my red mist, you know, but I'd have this red mist that apparently they used to say would come over my eyes and then everybody would clear the room.
Oh, we had great fun. I mean, excess, yes. Excess, fun and excess. It leads to destruction, but I tell you what, you have a damn good time getting there.
And an appetite for destruction wasn't confined to rockers. The discotheques of the 70s were packed with line dancers as well, and the diet was coke.
Disco experience was a hedonistic experience, was a dancing experience, was a drug experience. I'm a child of the 60s. I was at Woodstock and at Studio 54. But I got to tell you, Studio 54 was much better. And it was happening every night. You had the drug experimentation of the 60s now in a club context. So people were popping amyl nitrate and you were doing cocaine off tables. Anything you wanted to do, you could do. And people who were allowed to come in, and that's what I mean that, allowed to come in, you felt like the first person who climbed Mount Everest. You felt like you were the king of the world. And people who were inside knew that if you were inside, you were cool. You were the coolest of the cool. Angel dust began showing up. Cocaine began its rise. There were people already starting to freebase during that period. You could routinely be in the girls' bathroom, which is the cool place to be in studio, and you could have sex with a movie star and do coke and all that kind of stuff, and then never see her again. Not as much heroin. Heroin was not a. I mean, there's heroin around, but heroin was not an upscale disco drug because it's a downer, and it was upper drugs that were really disco drugs. It's the most fun I ever had in my life in a club, and believe me, you're talking to a guy who's had some fun in some clubs all around the world.
In the London clubs of the 80s, cutting up and shooting up was replaced by making up. But underneath the foundation there were serious cracks and the same old dope.
It is a cliche. You know, rock and roll, drugs. You know, it's a cliche, an age-old cliche. Janis Joplin, Jimi Hendrix, Brian Jones. It's just so, in a sense, predictable. I think the media have this idea, particularly in England, that they kind of create you and destroy you, but it's a little bit conceited on their behalf.
George had created so much hype, and so many people were fed up with him because of seeing him too much. You think, oh God, not him again. But they just cashed in on the next bit, and they've done it with other people as well. They're already planning the downfall after about a year of them being famous. They love it. It's just this thing. They know it's going to lead up to it, and they love it. It's just like a standard thing somehow.
I created myself, you know, they helped, and I destroyed myself without any help from them.
He would walk around the club. I remember that one club in particular, the Limelight in New York, and he would be like the Pied Piper. There'd be like 50 people running along behind him because George would be handing out the ecstasies to people. So
the media kind of made a mountain out of such a small part of the information. I mean, they didn't really know the half of it. It was in a sense worse than they actually realised.
George isn't a little taste of that and a little taste of that and a little taste of that. George is like, I love that. Give me more. Give me it, not more. Give me it all. You know, and then he goes, don't ever want to see that again.
It was horrible, and he was vile to be with. When he was on heroin, it was like all the time, it was like, why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this to me? You know, all that, and it was horrible.
Basket case. It was a basket case. It was 2 sheets to the wind, you know what I mean? It was like, he was gone.
And I went round to his house, and he had a boyfriend, and I went round with my friend. People said to me, you should go and help him. So I thought, I went round there in a car, and the boyfriend came out and he goes, go away, be off with you. You just had this boyfriend who'd like taken over. I thought, what have I done?
My mother was really the person that, you know, took the bull by the horns and confronted me and kept turning up at my home and dragging me in front of the mirror and, you know, fighting with me constantly to get help.
I don't think you ever get over anything like that. It's always there with you. Always.
I let it all fall apart. But at the same time, you know, I put it all back together again.
So there you have it, a televisual Green Cross code to the world of drugs. Think once, think twice, then keel over in the corner and hope somebody will bother to pick you up. Warning, pop music can seriously damage your health.
This business is very egotistical and self-centered, and the industry absolutely encourages that. And the adoration that you get also encourages that, and you do lose yourself. You go mad. For me, it was drug addiction. That was the sort of slap round the head. It was quite a long slap round the head, but that's really what brought me to my senses eventually.